Hey, salon owner, if you've been feeling like leadership is exhausting, like you're pushing and pulling your team just to get the bare minimum, you're not alone. And more importantly, it's not your fault. The truth is, many of us were trained to lead with force, but there's a better way, a freer way. And today I want to walk you through the difference between force and power and how making this shift completely changed my business, my energy, and my team's results. Let's start with force. What is force? Force looks like this: it's deadlines barked out, goals demanded, energy constantly monitored. You know, maybe there's maybe there's even yelling behind the scenes or stone cold silence because force pushes people. It exhausts you and your team. It's rooted in fear and scarcity, truly in the need to prove something. And there's a reason it's unsustainable. It drains everyone involved. So here's the real kicker: it often masquerades as leadership. You've probably seen salon coaches out there teaching this model: hit the numbers or get cut. No excuses, grind harder. But can we be honest? That kind of leadership is usually driven by one thing: an insatiable need to be in control. That is not leadership. No, that's fear dressed up in designer sneakers. And we've all tried it, haven't we? You hit a season where your results have dipped, and suddenly, instead of managing from a place of anything other than panic, that's where you come from. But what if the opposite of control isn't chaos? What if it's trust? You know, there's a beautiful old fable that I love that really demonstrates this. And it's about a traveler, and the it's the wind and the sun, and they are, you know, in a challenge. They challenge each other. Let's see who can get the cloak off of him first. And so, you know, the wind went first, and it has some furious gusts trying to rip the cloak off the traveler with brute force. But the harder it blew, the tighter the traveler clutched it. And then it was the sun's turn, and it didn't blow, it just simply shined, with warmth, consistency, and light. And eventually the traveler willingly took the cloak off. So that's the difference between force and power. Force tries to take, power inspires people to release. So, what is power? Power is rooted in truth. So, imagine it like a magnet. It's also rooted in clarity. It's rooted in alignment. So when you yell, sorry, excuse me, when you lead from power, you don't yell. You don't micromanage. You don't hover. You speak with calm conviction. You model the culture. You create the systems where people choose excellence. Your salon truly becomes a magnet, and you stop recruiting out of desperation and start attracting the right people because of who you are and how you lead. So you're no longer chasing every result. You're creating an environment where results are inevitable. And here's something wild: When I totally decided I was going to stop trying to control every detail and instead focused on teaching my team how to think, feel safe, and own their role, our rebooking went up, our retail went up, our referrals went way up. Why? Because power scales. Force can only stretch so far before it breaks. You know, truly, I want to break this belief I know so many salon owners carry. So, this is your brain, and sometimes we think if I don't stay on them consistently and constantly, everything will fall apart. And I want to tell you that belief is a trap. It sounds like leadership, but it's actually a fear of being irrelevant. Yes, I said it. Here's the truth. Your team, they don't need a dictator. They need a visionary. Someone who leads from wholeness, who leads from purpose, who leads from power. You know, and that's when you start creating systems, accountability tools, and training from a place of love and clarity instead of anxiety. And that's when everything changes. You get your energy back. You stop working 24/7 and you build something that can scale without burning you out. You truly become the sun, and you're not the wind. Because the truth is, you know, this is you. Like, and attached to you is all the systems, you know? It's the vision, it's the culture, it's the metrics, and most importantly, it's the mindset. And this is exactly what we teach inside of the Salon Success Secrets Challenge. It's not just marketing tips or surface level motivation. We show you how to create a culture that doesn't rely on micromanaging, doesn't rely on anything other than implementing systems that run without constant pressure. You're able to then lead with vision, not panic. And you become the kind of leader people want to follow. And if you're ready for more info or you would love to join us, it's only $97 to start and it's packed with value. And it could be the turning point in how you lead your salon and your life. And at the end of the day, you choose push or pull, force or power, exhaustion or alignment. You're not here to hustle your way to the top. You're here to lead differently with power. If that speaks to you, come hang out with us in the challenge. I'll drop the link below. And remember, you don't have to push, you just have to align. I'll see you on the inside.